nature, there are three kinds of knowledge, action, and performers of action. Listen as I describe them. Sarvabhuteshu yeknaikam bhavam avyayam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajjnanam vidhi sattvikam. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all existences, undivided in the divided, is knowledge in the mode of goodness. Pritakvena tuyaj jnanam nana bhavan pritag vidhan veti sarveshu bhuteshu tajjnanam vidhi rajasam. That knowledge by which a different type of living entity is seen to be dwelling in different bodies is knowledge in the mode of passion. Yattu kritsnavad ekasmin karye saktam ahaitukam atatvartavad alpam cha tattamasam udahritam. In that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Niyatam sangarahitam araga dveshata kritam apala pripsuna karma yattat sattvikam uchate. As for actions, that action in accordance with duty, which is performed without attachment, without love or hate, by one who has renounced fruitive activities, is called action in the mode of goodness. Yattu kame suna karma sahankarena va punaha kriyate bahulayasam tadrajasam udahritam. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires, and which is enacted from a sense of false ego, is called action in the mode of passion. Anubandham kshayam himsam anapeksha cha purusham mohad arabhyate karma yattattamasam uchate. And that action performed in ignorance and delusion, without consideration of future bondage or consequences, which inflicts injury and is impractical, is said to be action in the mode of ignorance. Mukta sango naham vadi drityutsaha samanvitaha siddhya siddhyor nirvikaraha karta sattvika uchate. The worker who is freed from all material attachments and false ego, who is enthusiastic and resolute, and who is indifferent to success or failure, is a worker in the mode of goodness. Ragi karma pala prepsur lubdo himsatmako shuchi harsha shokanvita karta rajasa parikirtita. But that worker who is attached to the fruits of his labor and who passionately wants to enjoy them, who is greedy, envious, and impure, and moved by happiness and distress, is a worker in the mode of passion. Ayukta prakrita sabda shato naikshritito lashaha vishadi durga sutrika karta tamasa uchate. And that worker who is always engaged in work against the injunction of the scriptures, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, who is lazy, always morose and procrastinating, is a worker in the mode of ignorance. Budhir bedam dritish chaiva gunatastri vidham shinu prochamanam asheshena pritakvena dhananjaya. Now, O winner of wealth, please listen as I tell you in detail of the three kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of nature. I think that's all of them. So back to text 19. Yanam. So in accordance with the three modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge, action, and performers of action. Listen as I describe them. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In the 14th chapter of the three divisions of the modes, in the 14th chapter, the three divisions of the modes of material nature were elaborately described. In that chapter, it was said that the mode of goodness is illuminating, the mode of passion materialistic, and the mode of ignorance conducive to laziness and indolence. All the modes of material nature are binding. They are not sources of liberation. Even in the mode of goodness, one is conditioned. In the 17th chapter, the different types of worship by different types of men in different modes of material nature were described. In this verse, the Lord wishes to speak about the different types of knowledge, workers, and work itself according to the three material modes. Maharaj, would you like to speak on this verse? Would you like to speak on this?
19. 19. Yeah, we see this is quite prominent. There are those who say that they believe in the soul, but their understanding of the soul is there's different souls, animal souls, human souls, and therefore it's okay to eat animal souls for the humans because they're not human souls. So that's what they consider to be not killing. Thou should not kill human souls. So this is, of course, not a very complete understanding of the soul because the soul, first of all, can't be killed. And second of all, the souls of all living entities are the same size, same style, but according to the different desires of the living entity, he gets a particular type of body, according to the modes of material nature. So modes of material nature, three kinds: goodness, passion, ignorance. Everyone falls under these three. He may be prominently under goodness, and he's considered to be in the mode of goodness. He's like a Brahmin. Quality of a Brahmin is goodness. And quality of a pure passion is a Kshatriya. And quality of a Vaishya is mixture of passion and ignorance. So, and the Shudra is predominantly the mode of ignorance. In other words, the things he does, his lifestyle, all his choices and what he eats and what he does, his determination, all those things are governed by the mode of ignorance. Whereas a Brahmana, his whole way of seeing things and way of interacting with everything is goodness. So one who can see how the modes of nature are acting. Like this is a perfect example. Krishna says that those in the mode of passion see different types of souls.
Mm-hmm.
And those in the mode of ignorance, they don't, no soul at all. They don't even perceive it. An animal doesn't think about what's alive. Is the animal, is the body alive, or the inside of? He doesn't think of souls, animal, insect. And similarly, humans, many of them also don't think about the soul. Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, and others just can't understand. Don't get it at all. And then those in the mode of goodness, they see all souls as one. That's the impersonal conception. All souls are part of the, not part, you're not supposed to use words like that. It's all one. And we're not supposed to say we, but we are all God. We, plural, are all God. They try to make these kind of statements. So the correct understanding of Bhagavad-gita is to understand souls as eternal fragmental parts, Lord, Shiva, and they can they're not able to maintain themselves alone, individually. They can't take care of their own necessities. They need air, depending on the body they get. So nature has to supply. Either it'll be supplied by material nature, which is where we are now in the material world, where souls get material bodies and material nature takes care of them, or they are looked after by the spiritual energy. They get spiritual bodies, spiritual environment to be in. Association's all spiritual. So those who choose to stay in the material world because they're envious of Krishna, they can't tolerate that he's getting worship there all exclusively. They want worship. They want to be worshipped. So they come to the material world. They're given a place. Krishna is so kind. He gives them a place to try to work out their lordship. And they do that, and some of them become very powerful by performing austerities, penances, sacrifices, and they get mystic powers and they can defeat others. And they're very happy. They get what they want. Power and women and money, fame. That's what everyone's looking for in the material world. But some souls are more fortunate. They come in contact. Monday, Brahmite Kono Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti Lata Beach. They come in contact with the spiritual master by the grace of Krishna, and then by the grace of the spiritual master, they get to come to Krishna. That's the most fortunate thing. Without that, everything is more or less just unfortunate in the material world. Even if one gets to the mode of goodness, it's not complete because he's still in prison. He's still not in his natural position. It's like if someone says, well, next year I reach the highest level, the first-class prisoner. And then from now on, the rest of my term, only 80 more years, I'll be in the first-class prison part. And he's thinking that's a good achievement. It's better than the others, better than second and third class, but not sufficient. It's said that 3 things should be eradicated immediately: debt, disease, and fire. Because if you don't take care of them immediately, they grow and they get worse. So a good physician, he doesn't leave any disease in the body. He doesn't say, well, there's a little bit of cancer, but hopefully it won't grow. We'll keep our fingers crossed. No, he's supposed to, a good doctor takes care. No, we got rid of all the disease. A good fire department, they don't leave your house and say most of it's taken care of. There's still one part that's burning, but we'll come back tomorrow and see how things are going. No, that's not a good fire department. So really the goal of the mode of goodness is to use as a springboard for getting out of the modes of material nature altogether and going back to the spiritual world. Those in the mode of goodness have an advantage because their lifestyle is already good. And to come to the pure goodness platform is not so difficult for them. Because they're accustomed to discussing topics about the soul. They're interested in higher things, more sophisticated, more cultural things. They're not interested in gross. They're vegetarians. They keep clean. They perform austerities. They're truthful. They're peaceful. Shamo Dhamma Tapaksharcham Shantir Arjum Evacha Jnanam Vijnanastikyam Brahma Karma Bhavacham. They have knowledge, they have realized knowledge, they're forgiving, good qualities. So they're naturally attracted very easily to Krishna consciousness. Whereas, and that's why we see, to some extent, why people born in India are taking to Krishna consciousness so easily. Because it's practically their culture. They're familiar with Krishna. Even though many of them do worship demigods, but they all recognize Krishna to some degree. And when they come in contact with devotees of Krishna, then because they're already familiar and they're fond of Krishna, then it's not difficult for them to understand that the demigods are working under Krishna. And so they understand they should become a devotee, a pure devotee of Krishna. And then they're automatically serving all the demigods. 33 crores, 10 million. 33 crores of demigods. So it's a lot of demigods to worship individually, but if you give water to the root of the tree, then all the demigods, the branches, they're nourished. So it's the best way to appease all the demigods is to offer them on service to Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Are there any questions so far? Yeah, I'll read a little bit more. Okay, Magadari Prabhu.
I was wondering about the mode of goodness. If somebody is in the mode of goodness, then they should be more attracted. But then why does Prabhupada say that the hippies are the best customers? Because we often find them kind of doing unrighteous activities.
They weren't the best customers for being in the mode of goodness so much, but because they were more inclined to reject materialistic culture. Their parents and families had everything, so much opulence and money, but they would not be interested in it. I think on one morning walk, Prabhupada, or in a class, Prabhupada was talking about a morning walk where they went by a house, and they could see there's clearly a nice family, there's a nice car, nice house. Then outside he sees the son of the family is dressed as a hippie. He's got the long hair and however they dress. So their families were well-to-do, but they were rejecting that. Yes, Maharaj?
It's a good point that they were not interested in becoming Hindus. Not that the hippies became Hindus. They became Krishna devotees. Because that attracts. Otherwise, if they wanted to just have some organized religion, they had Christianity, they had Judaism, they had whatever. But that wasn't enough. Just some organized so-called religion with some other things mixed in is not satisfying to the soul, because what does one want? Just to be pious? They weren't interested in piety for the sake of piety. They were interested in, they got captivated by the idea of perfection. and love. Because God is personal. They didn't become attracted to Krishna consciousness because it was impersonal. They were attracted because it was personal. And Krishna was personally attracting them. And there may have been other, shall we say, circumstances that may have played into the thing to some extent. There was the War of Vietnam. There was this counterculture that allowed them the freedom to do what they wanted. There was not that those things in and of themselves were sufficient to get them to change, but it may have played some role, different circumstances. But the main thing was a pure devotee coming. Without the pure devotee coming, nothing, it just would have been the hippie movement without any specialty. But now, everyone that took advantage of Krishna consciousness, even those who didn't know they were taking advantage of it. Like there was that one article by a writer in Britain. He said, we're all Hare Krishnas, more or less now. Everyone. Who doesn't do some yoga? Who doesn't believe in some karma, some reincarnation, vegetarianism? These things are all from Hare Krishna. So we're all Hare Krishnas to a little extent. So it's true. I have relatives that would never have been interested in Indian anything, but somehow or other, through yoga or some aspects of Vedic culture that are attractive, people are becoming attracted. But really the purity behind it is the Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, it culminates in Krishna consciousness. So we see, not only are the born Hindus taking to Krishna consciousness, but even some of the people now who've turned to a type of Hinduism through yoga or mantras or vegetarianism or whatever, peace, they also can take to Krishna consciousness completely because they've gone part of the way. They've already accepted some aspects. They've already accepted Sanskrit language. They're using words like yoga, karma, etc. So that means when they hear that, even the Buddhists, they also use Sanskrit. They were part of India. And so Sanskrit is their language too. So again, this is another benefit. Those who are turning to that as a kind of alternative to their Western religious lifestyle or whatever, they probably will become disappointed because the goal is zero, is void. And it's difficult to fall in love with void. If there's something better, if that's all you've got, then maybe void is better than minus. But we don't just have minus, we don't just have zero, we have the plus. Why not take spiritual emancipation, freedom from all the miseries of material life, and at the same time, all the pleasures of spiritual life? That makes sense. That's positive. So an intelligent person will consider that at least I should try it, give it a try. And once tasting, chanting Hare Krishna or Krishna Prasadam, philosophy like this, it's very difficult to find anything better. And so it's natural that they'll take to it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. So that knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all existences, undivided in the divided, is knowledge in the mode of goodness. This is what Maharaj was just speaking on before. They're seeing everything as all the souls as one. They're seeing one undivided spiritual nature in all existences, undivided in the divided, is knowledge in the mode of goodness. Purport. A person who sees one spirit soul in every living being, whether a demigod, human being, animal, bird, beast, aquatic, or plant, possesses knowledge in the mode of goodness. In all living entities, one spirit soul is there, although they have different bodies in terms of their previous work. As described in the 7th chapter, the manifestation of the living force in every body is due to the superior nature of the Supreme Lord. Thus, to see that one superior nature, that living force in every body, is to see in the mode of goodness. That living energy is imperishable, although the bodies are perishable. The difference is perceived in terms of the body because there are many forms of material existence in conditional life. Therefore, they appear to be divided. Such impersonal knowledge finally leads to self-realization. So like Maharaj said before, this type of understanding is a springboard to get into Shuddha Sattva, or the transcendental stage, or the stage of self-realization. So they have this impersonal knowledge, seeing that, yes, there's many different forms and different bodies, but in all of those, there's the same type of soul. The soul is ultimately the same quality of Krishna, but a different quantity. So Krishna is eternal, we're eternal. Krishna is full of knowledge, we're full of knowledge. Krishna is full of bliss, and we're full of bliss. Those are the qualities of the soul. But he has them in full, unlimited. And the individual jiva soul has them just to a minute extent. Krishna is infinite, and the jiva soul is infinitesimal. But this impersonal knowledge can ultimately lead to self-realization. So we might meet people who have these ideas, and then it's actually easier to preach to them Krishna consciousness because they have some idea that I'm not the body, I'm the soul, and it's easy for them to pick up the philosophy. And then we just add the icing on the cake that actually this supreme absolute truth you're looking for is a person. And he has a whole spiritual world that's full of variety. It's said that variety is the mother of enjoyment. So if one just wants to become one and merge into the effulgence of the Lord, there's not much enjoyment there. It's a temporary position because being a person, they'll still have desires. So they'll come back to the material platform to try to fulfill those desires in some way. But if one associates with Krishna, the Supreme Person, in his spiritual abode full of spiritual associates and spiritual services, then they're fully satisfied because there's that personal relationship there and that variety. That knowledge by which a different type of living entity is seen to be dwelling in different bodies is knowledge in the mode of passion. Purport. The concept that the material body is the living entity and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul which manifests consciousness. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond this body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary, or else there are no individual souls. But there is an all-pervading soul which is full of knowledge, and this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or beyond this body, there's no special individual or supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered products of the mode of passion. So this viewing things through the mode of passion, like Maharaj said before, this philosophy people share often today that, well, actually we can go on killing and eating animals because we're a human soul, but they have an animal soul that's seeing things in the mode of passion. when actually each soul is the same in quality. They're Jivera Srupahoy Krishnara Nityadas. That means every person and every soul is the eternal servant of Krishna. So naturally, we'll only be satisfied when we're serving Krishna. But in the material world, we have two choices. Either we can serve Krishna or serve Maya, his external energy. So that means we can serve Krishna's senses and try to please Krishna, or we can be bound to being forced to just serve the senses of this material body, which are never satisfied. One devotee prays that I've been serving these bad masters, the senses. Even though I give them more and more service, they're never satisfied. They're never pleased with me. They never let up. I just have to keep on serving them. But someone who serves Krishna, they're liberated because they're no longer a slave of the senses or any other material thing. As long as we're materially attached or serving Maya, then we're more or less a slave of these different things. In order to be satisfied, I require this or that. I have to have the cell phone, or I have to satisfy my stomach, or I have to have this. So I'm more or less a slave of those things. But then to be liberated means that one is free. So one who serves Krishna, they no longer need any of these material things. They can actually just be satisfied with their service to Krishna and seeing that he's satisfied. Are there any questions or points so far? Yes, Jagannath Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. So, how can we take interest in like saintly people, you know? Because I feel like that's a really big impetus for taking spiritual life seriously, you know? So sometimes I don't feel so, I don't know, I feel bad for saying this, but I don't feel so inspired, you know, because for some reason I just don't feel it. So how can we take this inspiration that these saintly people are giving us and use it for Krishna service?
Well, one way that we can get more interested in saintly persons is hearing more from them, or also hearing more about them. Like you're hearing in the Bhagavatam about so many different associates of Krishna. There's also, like, many devotees have written many amazing prayers. So there's some songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that we sing, many different bhajans. And by reciting these, we can sing them and then also read the translations and also sing them with others. And they're so profound because the whole mood and understanding of a pure devotee is right there in such a succinct way to get it. So by hearing from them, reciting their bhajans, if there's certain personalities that you're interested in the Bhagavatam, or even in the modern day devotees who have served Srila Prabhupada, we can hear about them in either lectures or books. So these are some things that inspire me, hearing about devotees or from them, speaking when, like, hearing about their times with Srila Prabhupada and the way that their devotion has developed in Srila Prabhupada's association and in the association of other devotees, and the extreme risks that they've taken to serve their spiritual master, and things like this can be very inspiring. Does anyone have any other points on that, taking inspiration from sadhus? There's so much to hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's also so many personalities, like Prahlad Maharaj. I mean, I don't know. There's no movie or fictional character that could even come close to being as inspiring as Prahlad Maharaj. He's He's only 5 years old, and he's able to tolerate anything that's happening simply because of his faith in Krishna. His father's the biggest demon in the universe. It's pretty inspiring, or it's pretty exciting. But even with everything that the strongest, most powerful demon is throwing at him, he still has full faith in Krishna. And then we can hear about the devotee's relationship with Krishna, and it becomes even more inspiring. So we already hear about what Prahlad Maharaj is doing. He teaches his whole classmates in the school of demons, the Asura school, and he tells them that actually now is not the time to just play, even though they're children. He says now is the time to endeavor for Krishna consciousness. And we can see some paintings. There's a really simple painting that shows Prahlad standing in the Swami step, and you see like hundreds of small students also doing the Swami step with him. But then after hearing just about him, we can hear of his relationship with Krishna and how Krishna comes as the most far out being you could ever imagine. Half man, half lion, teeth and nails like thunderbolts, to save his devotee and also reciprocate in this loving exchange with his devotee. We can hear the prayers that Prahlad says to Lord Nrsimhadev. So like this, there's many inspiring things we can hear through scripture in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or many devotees have written of their activities in Srila Prabhupada's association. It's inspiring to hear. Are there any other questions or things that have stood out so far? No, okay. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Purport. The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity in conditional life is born into the mode of ignorance. Oh, one more point on that, actually. Whatever persons we're inspired by, we take on those qualities. Like we hear that example often, what we associate with, just like the iron rod, you put it in the fire and it takes on the same qualities as the fire, the light and the heat. So whatever you touch it to catches on fire. So whatever we associate with or people we're inspired from will take on those qualities as well. So we see the impact of this modern culture where people are just inspired by these celebrities whose lifestyles are abominable. And then society gets into such a bad condition, it's incurable, no matter what laws you pass or what efforts you make, because the people that everyone is looking up to are so low in character. But we see in Vedic culture, there's a culture of glorifying and serving saintly personalities. So then in this way, the whole society becomes centered on God, and it becomes a very nice atmosphere. So I read an example that Maharaj gave where how much better it would be if the footprints in front of the Chinese theater in Hollywood were of the pure devotees who we hear about instead of all of these celebrities. Because we also hear in scripture that one of the most valuable substances in the world is the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee. When Jad Bharat, who's another inspiring devotee, when he was instructing a great king, King Rahugana was asking, how is it that you've become like this? You can tolerate anything, you're transcendental, you're clearly extremely satisfied. He's asking like this. And Jad Bharat, and he was saying, is it from studying the scriptures? Is it from doing austerities? Is it from this process, from that? And Jad Bharat said, actually, it's simply by, one can achieve this state only if they get the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee, was the essence of what he was telling him. So if we associate with these types of personalities, then the benefit is unlimited. And we have that desire already to associate and glorify and hear about some kind of person. So It's so much benefit can be had if we just turn that desire, since it's already there, towards hearing about the saintly persons and their activities, the pure devotees. And then that'll also save us from so much trouble, since we're already conditioned to hear about other personalities who aren't going to benefit us in any way. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of the directions of scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as the product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness, and knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is the product of the mode of passion. And knowledge concerned with only keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Would anyone like to add anything or any questions or comments? Yes, Mogadari.
So in the conditional state, we're often experiencing some different discomforts, and there may be a tendency to blame like devotional service for my discomforts. How much attention do we give our discomforts and try to mitigate them, one by one, so that we can stick around the devotional service of the Lord and make progress?
Well, we're hearing from Krishna in the Bhagavad-gita that the topmost method for all perfection is devotional service. So we could use, if we're feeling some sort of discomfort, instead of trying to get the cure for that outside of Krishna consciousness or outside of devotional service, we can just find the cure for it within devotional service. By doing devotional service, whatever that problem is can become mitigated. So we can find the way to do that in Krishna consciousness, and that'll stop us from looking for it outside, which pulls us away from Krishna consciousness. Yes, Maharaj?
Yukta harascha, yukta saptasya karmasu, yukta. So regulating or moderating the eating, not eat too much, not eat too little, sleep too much, sleep too little, recreation too much, too little. In other words, to live in a balanced lifestyle, that's very helpful for maintaining good health. Sadhana taken in proper quantities is wonderful. And Ayurveda gives some inspiration how to fill up the body with some food and some water and some air. So, and not engaging in activities that are unhealthy and are not clean. Keeping clean circumstances. There's one part of the Ayurveda says 3 things cause disease: uncleanness, laziness, and overeating. So it is said that if you want to get rid of unwanted guests and disease, don't feed them. They go away. So there are some nice, as was pointed out, these are nice ways to fine-tune our devotional service. And we try to take care of, keep the body healthy as far as possible. But you've heard what Prabhu said about health sometimes. He's healthy and he's really healthy, and then he dies. He died healthy. So we can't get too caught up in the body and thinking that we're going to make it last. But some effort can be made depending on circumstance and the devotee. Prabhupada took about the minimum type of attention to. His instruction was, as you know, if something happens, don't take me to the hospital. Just chant Hare Krishna. Everybody has to die. So that was his. Some of us may not be able to accept that yet, that type of faith in Krishna, but still we have some. So we're not disallowed to use medicine or doctors or things like that. But we should try to keep in mind that the main thing is to remain Krishna conscious in all circumstances.
Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.